Hey, everybody. Welcome back into the EscapePod. I'm Julie.
I'm Charity.
And you're listening to an EscapeBite, where we take a bite into true crime.
Okay, what you got for us today, Overlander?
I do. I have a little blurb that was inspired by a movie, actually, that I watched not too long ago. So we're going to talk about, it is a little bit more serious. I know I had some more funny topics. There's a little bit of comedy in this dramedy. But we're talking about escaping financial abuse today. Okay, so I came across a movie a few weeks ago that I had first seen probably at least 15 years ago.
Oof, okay.
Yeah. Waitress. Have you ever seen Waitress?
I'm not sure if I have.
Maybe.
I think it's the book Nickel and Dimed I think of every time you say that.
Okay, because there are some similarities.
Yeah,
Yeah, Waitress starred Carrie Russell of Felicity fame, as
like
well as
her,
many other things. She's kind of amazing. As well as Nathan Fillion, Cheryl Hines, Andy Griffith is in it. He plays a great character.
Yeah.
Old Joe. He's
Joe.
great. So that's just naming a few. There's also a Broadway show by the same name featuring music by Sarah Bareilles. I have not seen it. It debuted on Broadway in 2016. The movie was released, though, in 2007. So I would argue, like our podcast, that the movie and the Broadway show could be considered dramedies because there is some trauma, for sure. There's also quite a bit of comedy in it. So I'm going to share a little bit about the plot without any major spoilers because most of what I'm going to share happens within the first few minutes of the movie. So Carrie Russell's character is named Jenna. Jenna finds out she's pregnant, again, right at the beginning. She's a waitress. Shocker. Based on the name of the movie, and an expert at making
when that would come into
very
play.
Good. Right. She's
bearing the lead, Julie. Sorry.
I know, at making very good and very creative pies. So to keep the comedy and dramedy, I'm just going to give you an idea of how she imagines her pies. So this is kind of a theme throughout the movie, and it's like she closes her eyes to think through like how she would make it, and time kind of stops while she's doing it. And she says, for example, "I hate my husband pie. You take bittersweet chocolate and don't sweeten it. You make it into a pudding and drown it in caramel." She probably said caramel.
That's funny. Caramel.
"I can't have no affair because it's wrong and I don't want Earl to kill me pie. Vanilla custard with banana. Hold the banana." So this is how she does it. It's multiple times through the movie.
She's venting her emotional frustrations through pie creation.
Yeah, basically.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's
Is she really obese?
No, not at all.
Kidding.
She's adorable, as Carrie Russell
I know
is
she's
wont
not,
to
but
be. Yeah, I know, right?
Right?
You don't really see her eating the pies. She just makes the pies.
She's just pour angst into the pies.
Well, you've probably known people who are like really good cooks, but they were not they weren't
eat
what
eaters,
they cooked because they like to just
They
feed
wanted
others.
to feed other people. Yeah.
So you can tell she works at a small town diner in the South. And within the first few minutes of the movie, you see her waiting outside after a shift, and her husband pulls up. She gets in the car, and he immediately holds out his hand.
Oh,
And she gives him her tip money.
asshole. So this is Earl.
This is Earl.
Earl.
And it's very
Say that with a
clear,
lip curl.
right, from the get-go that she is not in a happy marriage. And again, not a spoiler, she is pregnant. So like I said, I had watched the movie years ago, and I remember it had received pretty good reviews. And at the time, I have to say that I was not impressed by it. I didn't kind of get what the fuss was about. But I would have been either single or newly married, would not have had kids yet, would have been living pretty good life, so didn't think much of it. I was probably pretty uncomplicated at the time. So more recently when I watched it, though, the movie struck me completely differently. And not because of my own life, because I'm still living a pretty good life. I do have kids now, and they do drive me crazy when they fight with each other. But outside of that, life is good. But because of working here at One Heart, it just struck differently. Because now I've actually met people who have faced
That
serious
exact thing.
financial
Yeah.
abuse. And so this time the movie was eye-opening and quite frankly heartbreaking in a way that it just wasn't before. So I just had a whole new appreciation for it. One of our guests, we call our clients here on campus guests, if you haven't followed us long, she shared her story multiple times during her time here about having to hide money.
Yep.
Part of the reason it took her 4 tries to leave her abusive partner was because she didn't want her children to be homeless. That was part of her reason for staying. Once she did leave, she had to go to domestic violence shelters. And then eventually, with only a few dollars in her pocket, she came to One Heart.
It was like $50 or something so small. Yeah.
I had 30 stuck in my head. It was not very much.
It wasn't very much.
She did amazing things here, and we're always super proud of her. So I was inspired to learn more about financial abuse and, more importantly, escaping it. So the Women's Law website, which you can find in our show notes, has a lot of information about it. And they define financial abuse as a form of domestic abuse and give as examples withholding money, stealing money, and restricting the use of finances. They have a whole list of questions you can ask yourself to kind of try and determine, like, am I in this group, if you will?
Self-assessment.
Yeah, sort of a self-assessment. And so they ask, does your partner steal money from you or your family? Make you feel as though you don't have a right to know any details about money or household resources? Prevent you from working or attending school or skill training sessions? I feel like we've had multiple people who have kind of faced that,
Get
right?
pulled down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Force you to turn over your paychecks or public benefit payments. We have seen that. Force you to account for all your money you spend by, for example, asking for receipts. So years ago, I worked with somebody who had a sibling who had left an abusive relationship. And one of the abuses she felt was basically financial abuse. I don't know that they would have used that term, but she said he was the spouse in this situation was super controlling. And one of the things he did was ask for, like, if she spent any money, he had to see the receipts. Which I'm like,
can you imagine?
My husband, I mean, God bless him. I tease him.
I will show you this receipt.
I tease him about being very frugal. He still would not ask to see a receipt. Like, he wouldn't even dream of it, right? So it's about control. It's about control. And like most forms of abuse, it is about control. Women's Law has a whole page on safety planning if you're trying to flee an abusive relationship. But here are some steps they suggest specific to finances. So they say, call your bank and credit card companies and ask that they change your account numbers, PIN numbers, passwords, and other access codes, and always make any passwords very hard to guess, okay? If you access your bank account through your personal computer or if you store your financial information on your personal computer, make sure you are using a safe computer that the abuser cannot access and has not installed spyware on. They say to try to take your personal and financial records with you, either copies or the originals. They always kind of give a caveat of if it's safe to do so. Another organization that I found in my research, Surviving Economic Abuse, is actually based in the UK. Some of their suggestions include creating an escape fund. They ask, could you ask friends or family to lend you money? Sell unwanted items that wouldn't be missed. So is that an opportunity to get some income that he or she, could be a woman, wouldn't notice? Set aside small amounts of money consistently and without being discovered, like change from buying groceries. Now so many people use cards, it would be hard.
It'd be much harder.
But back in the day, it would have been possible.
Well, still, I think, the demographic we serve, we teach them about that here, but a lot of them that come are still heavy in cash.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how they, so that mindset still might be for you and me.
Yeah, it's true.
All, so that it might be okay.
Yeah. So again, this organization, Surviving Economic Abuse, some other steps they say, keep that fund hidden. They ask, could you find a secret location that the abuser won't discover? Ask trusted friends and family to keep the fund safe for you. Set up a separate bank account that the abuser can't access. So something else to consider regarding any shared accounts. They say you may want to make withdrawals, for example, like if you're getting ready to leave, from cash machines near to where you currently live instead of where you are fleeing to. and to keep. That will help keep. So if you do have shared accounts and you're prepping to leave, if you're going to use a cash machine to get some money out, do it close to where you and the abuser live, where it would make sense that you would pull money out. Don't do it 5 miles away where you're planning to flee.
Okay.
Yeah. So it could be a giveaway for your new location.
Okay.
Also, find out if the bank statement would show an address or bank branch from where you're making a withdrawal.
Yeah.
So if they checked the bank statements, would they see where you pulled money from? So I would say now watch the movie if you can.
Well, that's interesting. On to that, I was listening to some episode on Crime Junkie, probably from 2023, pretty recently, and they were talking about how these types of abusers will pull your credit report, and they can find your address that way.
Oh.
So if you are really trying to flee somebody, make sure you're checking into that too, and trying to, get the. And I don't know the answer on how to separate yourself from somebody else's credit, but I'm sure resources like what you mentioned earlier would have, like the women's law, or what was it?
Yep.
Yeah, would have some ideas on how to do that. But
exactly.
But yeah, these nefarious, manipulative, destructive, abusive people, they're freaking clever.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would just say if you kind of want an idea of how somebody ends up in that situation, yes, it's a fictional story, but I found it to be valuable. And again, many years after seeing it the first time, it just hit a different way.
Well made too on Netflix.
Yes.
That's a more
Very
recent
similar.
one, maybe within the last 3 or 4 years. Very similar to that, just in more current times.
Yep.
Single mom trying to leave an abusive relationship, the whole control, getting sucked back in, that whole cycle. That one was really.
And that also incorporates
really powerful.
The main character's mother.
Hopelessness, depression, and then, the bipolarness of the mom.
Yeah. So both of those are pretty good examples. And again, fictional or not fictional, they
was spot on.
They hit pretty close to home.
That was spot on.
For people we've seen come through here.
It was so good.
So, and it's not just women. It's going to be mostly women, but certainly men can face these issues too. It does happen. It's not okay. So, not to be a total Debbie Downer, there are also some pretty fun and funny moments, at least in the Waitress movie. So, also, fun fact for locals or visitors to the Black Hills this summer, Waitress the musical takes the stage at the Black Hills Playhouse in Custer State Park.
My son played for them, not here, but in Omaha or somewhere. He was
like a traveling show.
Well, yeah. So their show was playing there, and he was in the pit.
Cool. Yeah. Well, here this summer of 2025, it starts July 20th and runs through August 3rd. There's your bite, people.
I like it.
We'll see you around.
Thanks, Julie.